I called my partner who I owned the houses with, and I said, listen, I don't have time to tell you the story.
Yeah.
Whatever. I
just need you to wire the money.
wire $75,000 in this by tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And he was cool. He said, okay, no problem, because he trusted me. And that was $75,000. I sold it the next day for $138,000. He goes, do you know what this means? I said, well, yeah, you're throwing dice. He goes, we'll take our 75 and you just keep throwing it. He was just keep pressing.
Hey guys, Zach here. Welcome back to another Investorlift podcast, going bigger and better than ever before. Every single time we say it, but it is true. Today we have a very, very special guest and a very dear friend of mine. It's a crazy story how we know each other. It goes way back to many, many years ago. Bruce McNeilage, Kinloch Partners. Welcome to the show, big guy. Flew all the way in for the IMN conference. Where are you coming in from?
I'm coming in from Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, Tennessee. Originally from?
Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit, Michigan. We got two Detroit hustlers over here. And how do we really know each other? Fill the guests in and who you are in the relationship.
And your dad were law partners for about 25 years. Never met. And I came out here, and I think your dad said, you got to meet my son, or my mother said, you got to meet, and hooked up and kind of hit it off. And, you know, we're in, I guess, similar businesses.
Sure.
You much larger than I.
No.
But, you know, I'm an old man. I was kind of tired. You're kind of a young guy with a lot more energy. Plus, I've got kids. I mean, you've got your thing going on. You don't have to be home at night or wake up in the morning. You have no baseball games, whatever, so you can go out there and hustle a lot more than I can.
True. So crazy. Again, his mom, one of the best attorneys in all of Michigan, literally renowned attorney, amazing at what she did. And my dad, business partners in law. How come you didn't get into the law business? Didn't your mom? I mean, you're great with people,
Yeah.
Your energy, your confidence, your intellect. Both of us pursued independently, randomly, careers in real estate. Why real estate over taking over the firm or doing something like that?
So I didn't like school, and I couldn't read and write real well.
That's so funny. I say the same thing.
I've been told in law that you have to do that. And my mother said, I don't want you practicing law in Michigan because you'll get disbarred for doing something, and that'll hurt my name.
For sure.
And I didn't want to practice in Florida. Again, you know, going for 3 or 4 years, having to do well in school.
Right.
That would be too much pressure on me.
Understood. So you have a business partner, but you pretty much run the show, correct? Yeah. And your business partner, you guys met in elementary school, right?
In kindergarten, yeah.
In kindergarten. Yeah. And so tell me about who is Bruce McNeilage? Where did you start from? Tell me about your career, as a kid and to where you are today. Yeah, so after college, I was a financial advisor and did that for 24 years. And about halfway through, I bought one house. Not a fixer-upper, just a nice little house, rented it out. I said, you know, this is fun. I think I can do this. And within a year, I had 57 houses. So hold on. You're a financial advisor. Which firm?
I had my own firm. Towards the end, by the last 11 years, I had my own firm. I had to sell it after a while because real estate just got bigger than my financial firm. So I sold it so I could just concentrate on real estate. And, you know, once you specialize in something, you don't have one foot in one, area, one foot in the other. It can really take off. And that's what happened. The minute I stopped managing people's money and kind of worrying about them just to concentrate on my business, the thing really kind of took off from there.
I think that's so key. And so, again, if you're not familiar with this podcast specifically, we always try and give people who are entrepreneurs in the financial world or all different endeavors, specifically real estate concentration, kind of pointers, learning lessons from your hardships, your successes, and stories all in between.
Man,
so takeaways, and I know this guy has got stories. By the way, he's very humble. He's out here at the IMN conference. You're speaking, and we'll get into your specific niche market within the real estate. So I know you do a lot of build to rent and major land development deals and different things. So I'm excited to talk about that. So what did you have in terms of assets under management when you exited the financial firm?
It wasn't a lot because what I had done, I don't want to say run down the business, but over time I had given away clients to partners, made sure people were taken care of. And so I just whittled it down to maybe a dozen clients. And I took care of them. And by taking care of them, I was able to take care of my real estate. I didn't have 500 people to worry about, 100 people to call on and have reviews. I just went down to about 10 to 12 families. And then once the real estate just took off, I said, hey, listen, I've got to move you over to my partner, another partner, not in real estate. And he's done real well with the people. I think he's kept up with them and done real well. And again, that made me feel good because I was able to exit in that business and focus all my time and endeavors into real estate.
And having multiple decades in the financial world and dealing with equities and bonds and private placement investments, what did you extrapolate from that business, and what was the parallel to the real estate? What made real estate so much more sexy? Because you have the inside track, knowing the players in the big institutions and the financial markets. So I would think you have a strategic advantage over other people penetrating real estate that doesn't have that financial background. What did you extrapolate from that, and how did you apply it to real estate?
Yeah, so I think what I did in college is I kind of learned what my friends' dads did for a living, or mothers, but mostly dads. And it came down to the wealthiest guys were in real estate or in insurance or financial planning. So, of course, those are the things I pursued. And you can't go out and buy $1 million of real estate when you're 22. Maybe you can when you're 22 years old. So what I did is I started helping people, other people, middle class, then upper middle class, then executives. And so I built that business. But eventually I said, hey, I want to manage my own money. I don't want to take care of other people. So I just saved and saved and saved, bought that one little house, had 57 after about a year. And then things kind of took off. And once the houses went, I started buying duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, because it's the same financing. It's 1-to-4 financing. And then once I had that up and running, we were flipping those. And I bought a 10-unit apartment complex, 22-unit. And it seemed like every year I was buying bigger and bigger, right? It was like a boat. Every year I had to have something bigger and bigger. So we got to a 46-unit, 61-unit, and where I tapped out on apartments is 162 units. And we sold that a few years ago.
That was an aggregation of units or just one complex?
No, just one complex.
So you bought one complex of 162 units. Where was it?
East Nashville. Yeah, kind of an up-and-coming area, kind of a fringe area, a place maybe you wouldn't go to at night. And we turned it around, kicked the bad people out. Neighborhood around it kind of took off. I built and developed a condo project right next to it. And so all of that kind of helped the neighborhood
go.
East.
What was it called?
Solo East.
Solo East. I remember the whole development.
My last project was going to be Solo North. I just sold the land last week. I was kind of scared with interest rates and things like that. I didn't want to really borrow a lot of money and then in 2 years have to kind of be beholden to interest rates, people being able to buy the units. So we just got the land entitled and then sold the land last week. And I had told the mayor that as long as she was the mayor, I would do Solo North, South, East, and West. She got kicked out of office and had to leave office after 2 years. And I said to her, Mayor, you've taken so much off my back because now I can be Solo East and Solo gone to Florida in a few years.
You go.
And stop risking the money on condo development and concentrated it just on my single family residential rental business. And we have two businesses. We have scattered sites where we might own 10 houses in this subdivision, 10 houses in that subdivision, or one here and there, and then just the small subdivisions. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to sell and kind of get rid and pare down the individual houses and use that money just to do subdivisions around the Southeast.
Just because it's a distraction in terms of economies of scale.
Yeah, exactly. It's easier to manage one community, one location. You can cut the lawn, maintain. It's like an apartment complex, right? It's a horizontal apartment complex where there's one location, X amount of houses. You can take care of them, keep up on people. It's not like you have them all over town or a few here, a few there, which can become a real nightmare. Plus, when we own the subdivision, we are our own HOA, right? So you're not having HOAs chase after you and say bad things and write you up.
You're controlling the whole thing.
We control the whole neighborhood. So I'm your landlord. I'm also the president of the HOA. And so I can come down on you pretty hard if you're breaking the rules.
Right.
And if it's not in my lease, it's in the HOA documents. And people take care of our houses. We manage them professionally, and it's a lot different than a mom and pop that might have 4 or 5 houses. We manage them professionally, which really is a good thing for the client, and our clients stay longer. Our average client stays about 4 or 5 years. We're in the when the multifamily apartment business, they stay about 16 to 18 months on average.
Oh, that's interesting. So single family has a higher rate of retention of apartments. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, when you get in a 4 or 5 bedroom apartment, if you have house, if you have 1 child, 2 children, 3 children, you're not going to move out. You still have what you need. Whereas if you're in an apartment, a 1, 2, 3 bedroom apartment, the minute you have a lifestyle change, you need a home office, mother-in-law moves in, you have 2 kids, you're maxed out on the space. So you want the backyard, you want the 2-car garage, you want to live out in the suburbs. And so people aren't going to leave our houses. They're brand new. And why would you leave in a year or two, right? It's a brand new house. And unless you go buy a house or you move out of the area, you're going to stay in our houses. And you're going to make friends with the people next door. Everybody moved in within maybe 6 months or a year of each other. And so once they make friends, kids are playing, the wives make friends, you all live in the same community. Usually you don't want to leave that community.
Right. Are you enjoying the second part of your career in terms of real estate greater than the financial world?
Yeah. Like I don't have to shave. I don't have to shave in the morning. I don't have to wear, coat and tie.
It's funny because you say that, but except for today, you're casual, which I like. This is laid back.
Right.
Every time this guy is always suited up, looking crisp into a tee, shaking hands and networking. You're an amazing networker, always putting yourself out there. Unlike most of our guests, I think your largest networking is through LinkedIn, if I'm not mistaken.
I push a lot of content on LinkedIn to help our industry, to educate people, of course, promote myself and my business. But I've got 15,000 followers on LinkedIn.
That's a lot.
I write a lot of content. We've been in the Wall Street Journal, NBC News. And so that's kind of morphed into, becoming an expert and people going towards me, talk about real estate like we're doing right now. You want to talk to experts. You don't want to talk to, novices that are just starting off in the business.
The people who are in the forefront, who are, cutting edge, leading the industry and making massive moves.
And I want to teach other people. I'm not going to be around forever. I'm going to retire, I think, at some point in the future.
I don't ever see you. I asked you the question the other day. When do you think you're going to retire? You're retiring in 6 weeks.
I don't know.
Maybe 60 years.
It's as long as I can do it, right? And as long as you have a phone and you know what you're doing, you're a people person, you know how to hire other people. But really, it's picking the right tenants, right? If you pick the right tenants, they don't call you as much. There's not as many problems. If you don't do a good job picking tenants, 80% of your time is dealing with 20% of the people that just run you in the ground.
For sure.
Right? And I don't want to
say that again for the audience. This is really critical in terms of timing and, again, things that people can utilize to implement in their business. You just said something critical where you're wasting 80% of your time on something that's 20% of...
The worst people, if you pick 10 or 20% bad people, and again, you can do it, it's all based on tenant selection, you're going to be spending all your time on those people, which takes you away from kind of taking care of your good people. And so tenant selection is the most important. It's not the color of the carpet or the color of the granite countertops. It's picking the right person. I tell people it's 92%. I don't know where I came up with that. But as you know, you want good people that are responsible, that pay you on time. Those people will take care of your homes. And I really want to stress, we're renting homes. We're not renting houses. A house, an apartment, those are where people live and they leave. This is a place where people have their first baby, where they have Thanksgiving dinner, where they have their second child, take care of a backyard. This is a home now. People plant flowers, they cut the grass, they're taking care of it as if there was their own. In an apartment complex, there's no ownership. There's no pride of ownership or pride of living in a house. And so you just don't put your roots down and take care of an apartment as much as possible. And you also don't know the landlord. They could be some big REIT in California or New York City. There's not a lot of feeling of community in an apartment complex than there is in a single family rental. But it's picking the right people. That's the first and foremost thing.
So for sure, I want to delve into that a little more too. So do you allow these people when they're living in your home, in homes, to purchase the homes from you?
Great question. If it's a scattered site, again, I have 5 houses here, 5 houses there, they're always for sale.
Got it.
If I have a 1-year lease, I'll tear it up halfway through. You qualify for the house. We'll pay your closing costs. Sell it a little under market because, again, we don't have to clean it up. It's not going to sit vacant for a month. There's not commissions. There's not really a lot of friction. And those people have been living in it. So, again, it's their home. In our complete subdivisions, we can't because of Fannie Freddie financing. You, in essence, own a community. You own like a rental community. And the minute one house isn't owned by you, you can't get the financing. That's no longer treated as a horizontal apartment complex. And so that's why we have to create it. We have to create it with that in mind. I could go in from a large major, that we all know. And if I buy 50 houses from them and one house is not owned by me, it's not the same financing. It's not going to be the same returns. And so we either buy a couple or we do a whole subdivision. But yes, the scattered sites always available to people. We have done it before, but you'd be surprised. There's less and less people buying them from us, because once people get used to renting a home, they can call you if something breaks down. They really get comfortable living in the house, but they just decide to be renters for life.
So how do they feel like it's their home, and you're when you're wholly owned in these communities, and you say it's your home, but they don't have the option to buy it? How do you instill the ability for them to feel like an equitable interest, or really a long-term place for them?
I think there's two things. I think they know it's not going to be sold. I think they know we're on their side too. These are our homes. These are our investments. We ask, of course, that they treat them that way. If they're not treating the exteriors good, they're probably not treating the interiors good. If you see a bunch of beat up cars, or they're doing things, parking in the street, things like that, first of all, we'll get rid of them, or we'll fine them, because again, we're the same HOA. But I think there's a sense of community. Plant flowers. We plant flowers at the entrance. It looks like a good neighborhood. It doesn't look like a sterile environment where, again, maybe you rent from someone that has 1 or 2 houses. They don't know how to professionally manage those houses where we do. So the leases will be reasonable, renewals, things like that. If you fill out a maintenance request, it's got to be uploaded on the internet through our portal, but we're going to fix it within 24 hours. If you just call me up, or, hey, are you in town? Can you come over and plunge the toilet? That's kind of old school. Mom and pop is what we call it. Where now it's become more institutionalized, where you have corporations, REITs, public-private equity funds taking care of these houses and on these communities. And so you get a lot of congruency, and you get things professionally taken care of. And that's where it's an experience. And we look at people as our clients, or we look at people, it's a people business. And our goal is to take care of people, give them homes that they're proud of, that they can raise their kids in. And we are very proud of that. And I think we're very successful because of that.
And that's your differentiating factor. You're building these from the ground up, so you're providing a high quality place at affordable prices, getting these high rates of retention for people, thus calling them homes, good environments. And so you're getting that longevity, that annuity of income, because you're really taking care of these people.
They're not vinyl villages, right? They're nice houses.
I like that. Vinyl village, that's a good thing.
And a vinyl village is a vinyl village. You go down the street, every mailbox is the same. There's no this. It's just straight streets. Maybe you have 2 models, and they're just boxes stacked one after another. Same color, might be 2 colors, but when you run into a neighborhood, there are a lot of vinyl villages.
For sure. And you guys have different architectural stuff.
Absolutely. We have different neighborhoods have different fixtures, features on the outside. Sometimes the municipality dictates that. They won't let you use vinyl. You have to use all brick or all hardy board. But if we have a choice, there might be some vinyl, but it'll be on the sides or in the back, where the front will be brick or stone, some board and batten, hardy board. And so it really looks nice, and it's a higher quality product and built better. And again, I think that's something that people want. Sometimes they don't know to ask for it. This is their first home, so they don't know, is the home well built? They just want bedrooms, and they just want a nice kitchen. And so a lot of times people will live in those vinyl villages. They're just happy to rent, and we're offering them an alternative. Might be $100 more a month, but they're going to get a lot better house, better insulation, things like that.
And better service.
And better service, I mean, it's not a vinyl village. You pay a little bit more for it. You're getting a higher quality product.
So you talk about these tenants, and it's funny because you're sitting here very calm today. I know a little different side of you, which we'll expose today. How are you vetting these tenants? Who handles the move-ins? What kind of questions are you asking? What is your process for bringing in these families to ensure you're getting a high-quality tenant?
Well, first of all, we want to meet the tenant. We want to interview the tenant, what type of person you are. We'll run the credit, but a credit is what it is. It tells you some things. And people can have some bad experiences in life, but they still have they're still a high-quality person making a lot of money. Maybe they get divorced, a bankruptcy, a short sale. But the other thing is we check the criminal backgrounds, and we check into the work backgrounds. How long has the person been at work? And so when you see someone's jump jobs every year or so, maybe they've had a misdemeanor here, a misdemeanor there. When you're not paying parking tickets, or when you're getting DUIs, or when you get spousal abuse, things like that, that doesn't change. That's probably going to continue. So we look at their history, whether criminal background, rental history, because a lot of times just looking at their credit report or just looking at their rental history isn't enough. You got to look at things from a holistic standpoint. And our goal is to kind of trip them up, right? Our goal is to find where that problem might be. So it's just not looking one or two places. We're looking at 4 or 5 people, 4 or 5 places, and we can have you underwritten in a few hours and let you know by the end of the day if we're going to approve you or not.
So tell me about the patterns. What are immediately knows when you look at somebody and things that you're like, somebody says something and you're like, oh yeah, we're going to utilize it. We're going to rent to you.
An eviction.
Okay.
And I can tell you on an eviction, it's always like, well, we didn't pay our rent because we had mold in our house. It was making us sick.
Exactly.
The landlord wouldn't take care of us, so we had to break the lease. Number one thing, it wasn't that we weren't paying them, we screwed them. It was always mold.
Right.
And then, of course, you can't get rid of the guy. They won't give you the information because, et cetera, et cetera. We've also had people pose as landlords, and we're just calling the family, and the family wants to get them out of the house. And so people pose for that. I would say turnover of jobs, history, is someone married, and what the kid situation is. If they pull up in a car that's beat up, or if they pull up in 2 Mercedes Benzes and you see large payments on their credit, they're going to pay those car payments before they pay me, right? That's an outward symbol of their success or how wealthy they are. But meanwhile, they're driving a nicer car than me. But meanwhile, they're barely making renting payments. And credit scores don't have to be high. We don't want a 750 credit score, because those people will move out on us in a year. They'll buy a house, build a house. We want like a marginal credit score like 600, 620. It's good enough to qualify, probably not good enough to buy a house in a year, but you're going to stick around with us for a while. Maybe repair credit, maybe do some things that make you a better candidate to buy a house, maybe save up some money for a down payment. But we look at all those things, and a lot of times we trip people up. And one of the things is people...
Go ahead.
Well, people say misdemeanors. You'll say, hey, you have 3 misdemeanors. They'll say, well, that's not really a crime. Or you'll say, have you ever been convicted of a crime? They'll say, no, only misdemeanors. And it's like, that's a crime, right? I don't know if you know that that's a crime. But if you don't pay your cable bill, or, you're $500 behind on your cell phone, and also we ask for bank records. And if you can't give me bank records, you don't want to. We've seen bank records where someone has $5 at the end of the month, $100 at the end of the month. Well, you're probably not going to pay me, or you're living day to day, not week to week or month to month. I want somebody living at least month to month. Because if you're that tight, when you have $5 at the end of the bank, I mean, your car has a problem.
But don't you think in today's society, a lot of people can fabricate these bank statements? It's easy to manipulate.
Yeah, I think they can. We try to get a bigger bank statement. We're going to run their credit. Maybe even look at a credit card. We want to know as much about that person as possible. So if they don't have a bank account, or they can say, well, I'm not going to show you my tax returns, or I'm from a foreign country, I'm not going to give you my social security number. Any of those things right away.
Will you take someone that's been evicted 5 years ago?
No, because something bad can happen, divorces, things like that. But if they got evicted and they paid, we check with the person. If they made payments or try to make whole on it, that's a good person that just got in a bad situation. But if you stiff a landlord, you don't pay your medical bills, and you have a history of not paying that person back, that's a person that's going to take advantage of you. And if they've done it in the past, that's kind of a learned type of thing. They're going to do it to you in the future.
Yeah, as we say, we look at the patterns, right? They're going from job to job every year, or they're going house to house every 8 months, or whatever. There's always patterns in all these things. And people, I think a lot of these landlords or smaller landlords, they're looking at the wrong. So, oh, you have the move-in money? Come on in.
When you have 2 months, don't worry about it. Now, I will tell you, we'll let, not criminal, but we'll let you slide a little bit if you pay us 1 year in advance on a 1-year lease. There's not a lot of risk, but I can tell you a lot of 1-year leases don't renew the 13th month, or they go south on you in the 13th month. But, 1 year guaranteed payment, we know things aren't going to happen bad in the first year. Second year might be different.
I had one of my worst tenants ever. They came out of prison. Their father co-signed and vouched for them. They're changed people to pay the whole year. You're like, why wouldn't you do that deal? Exactly right. When that year was up and it's time to collect that 13th month,
they don't have it.
No response. Then went through a nasty eviction and destroyed the house. I'm talking, I literally gave back every penny of what they paid for that year in, remodeling that home again. I mean, literally, the rats were in there, ate the plumbing lines. It was disgusting. I said,
you know, and
how
people
much
live that way.
damage could they have happened in a
People
year?
live that way.
That much damage. It was horrible. It's
I don't know how people. It's one thing if someone trashes your house intentionally, punch holes, you know, different things the day before they move out.
Yeah.
But if people are living that way, that's absolutely disgusting. Now we will go after a person like that because they did it intentionally or they caused a lot of harm. If you just bump up the walls, scuff up some things, I'm not going to sue. I'm not going to sue you, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So early on, you talked about, you know, you dabbled, you did one house during the financial career, and you're like, okay, this makes sense. And then you simply just go, oh, the next year I just did 57. It doesn't work like that. How do you go from one to all of a sudden 57 homes in a year? How were you financing? What was the game plan? How did you transition?
So for that, I got with a friend and I used his money, you know, OPM, other people's money.
Yeah.
And I did the work. I put a little money in. He did all the money, his credit, his balance sheet, tax return.
Okay.
So we were able to get a lot of houses. And the more I went, I was renting them. And he's like, hey, I didn't think you'd succeed. I thought we were going to do 5 houses, but you just kept bringing us leases. I really thought you'd fail, but you know, now we have the houses and we sold those to American Homes for Rent 9 years later.
Okay.
And so we came full circle. He made money, I made money. And that was really my foray into things. And then I could sell some of the houses. We sold some of the houses. And that gave me enough money that I could kind of go off on my own and do it myself.
Yep.
So that gave me the training, it gave me the money, it gave me the experience. So I would say OPM right away. Or if you're smaller, you buy one house. You know, in a year or two, you leverage it. You bump up the rents. It goes up a little bit in value because of comps. You take $20,000 out on a second loan, or you refinance it, and then you can buy a second one, or you can buy a third one. You take the positive cash flow. And if you own one house, you know, you should own 5 houses in a few years, right? Because you're just replicating a process. You're getting good tenants. You're getting to know banks. You're getting to know people like that. People that wholesale deals to you, lawyers, you know, anybody that can send you a deal if they know you can close a deal, real estate agents. All those people are very important to you because they know you can do business, and so they're going to refer business to you because they know you can be successful. I remember early on in my career, I went to a triplex, to an auction. And the lady was the high bidder. I'm sorry, she wasn't the high bidder. I was the high bidder. I got it. I sold it to her immediately. She called me the night before. Hey, I can't close, and I want my $1,000 back. Well, the $1,000 is something called earnest money, and it's non-refundable. So all of a sudden, I had $1,000. Now I have to close tomorrow because I assigned the contract. I called my partner, who I owned the houses with, and I said, "Listen, I don't have time to tell you the story. Whatever, I need you to wire $75,000 in this, you know, by tomorrow morning at 9 a.m." And he was cool. He said, "Okay, no problem," because he trusted me. And that was $75,000. I sold it the next day for $138,000. Went into his office. He said, "Hey, 78 to 138, we chop in half." He goes, "Do you know what this means?" I said, "Well, yeah, you're throwing dice." He goes, "We'll take our 75 and you just keep throwing he was just keep pressing." And so we did 7 of them that summer. Again, bought another one for 100, sold it for 150. And I want to say at the end of the year, we took that 75 off the table. And I think we made about $350,000. And then we started buying apartment count. He trusted me enough, started the houses, then you do the duplexes, triplexes, and now you're buying the apartment buildings. And it's really just an extrapolation of things. If you can own and run a duplex or a fourplex, you could certainly do it on a 10 or 20 unit. It's just the same thing.
So rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, rinse and repeat, get good at what you want, and try not to get out of your comfort zone. Because once you get good at houses, triplexes, and small apartment buildings, that's what you're doing. Don't get into self-storage or don't get into flipping this, or just concentrate on what you know. But if you want to get into something else, go to a person that's a specialist. Maybe seed them with money. But I wouldn't probably do that until I got really good at what I should be doing. Maybe go to a different market, a different city, but really try to concentrate and specialize in what I've been doing that I'm successful.
Right. So when you bought the one house and then you mentioned auction stuff, how did you create these relationships to acquire these 57 homes pretty quickly? And was all the OPM from one person or from multiple
No,
people?
it was,
How did that work?
it was from one, but my friends heard what I was doing. So I had 2 or 3 friends that did a house with me because they'd say, listen, I'll be pissed. If you don't put me into 1 or 2 houses, I'm pissed. Right. And that's the kind of friend you want. They believe in you.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if you're pissed, I'm going to run a couple deals by you. Now, if you say no, I've done what I was supposed to. I ran a few deals. You said no. I've got a clear conscience. And if you ever say, hey, how'd that deal work? I made $100,000 on it. Oh, I wish I would have put me in the next deal. And the answer is, I'm not going to put you in the next deal.
Because I gave you the opportunity.
I gave you the opportunity, and the guy I went to after you has done all 3 with them. Right. So unless he says no, then he's my investor, right? Yeah. And so no, we scaled up. We got to meet builders. The builders sold us excess inventory. They liked us because A, we could close. B, there was no friction on holding on to the house, commissions, things like that. Mm-hmm. We would close 3 days after the CO. And then again, rinse and repeat with some builders in some different cities around Nashville.
So a lot of people I find have a problem raising OPM. Like we talk about, it's no big deal. We're like, yeah, okay, so I did a deal. And all of a sudden I talked to 3 wealthy buddies and they're putting up the money. Yeah. What was your secret to success to have, obviously you're a confident, successful guy. Right. You put your heart and soul into something. So I believe in and know you. But to a third party person, and you're asking somebody for 75 grand or 100 grand or 200 grand, how did you create that confidence to enable these people to invest in you on these deals? Yeah, so I knew my partner for about 15 or 20 years. Okay. He knew me. We trusted each other. Mm-hmm. And I kind of bounced some ideas off him here and there. I'd go see him quarterly. He's like, okay, what do you have? What are you going to pitch me on? Mm-hmm. And I always was kind of pitching him on investments or ideas. And we would just sit there for a while. Eventually, he'd say no, and I'd come back and see him next quarter. But we were friends. And I went in there one time. I said, hey, let me show you what I'm doing. I did this house. I did this house. I said, I'm up to 7 houses on my own, but based on my income, based on my credit score, I can only get 7 mortgages. And he looked at it. He goes, man, you're making a lot of money, or man, these cap rates are good, or you can't touch a house like that for twice as much money in Fort Lauderdale where I was living. So he gave me some money, and like I said, he thought we'd do 5 houses, I'd fail, he'd get me out of his world, I'd pay him back, etc. And like he said, I just kept doing more and more and more, and he finally kept saying yes and yes and yes, rinse and repeat. Yep. Well, then my friends hear about it, all of a sudden, hey, I want a house with you, or I want a house. So once people see you successful, other people want to invest in you, but you got to get that first one, and that first one is the toughest one, because they're going off and looking at your success maybe in something else. You have to have skin in the game. You're willing to do the work. Yeah. You're not going to hire a property manager. You're going to go out there and use your sweat equity. Yep. That might be your part of the investment. Yep. They don't want to be bothered. They could be a doctor, lawyer, Indian chief. They just want you to bust your butt, collect the money, house goes up in value, sell it. And once you're successful on the first couple houses, then you've got someone set up until you're not successful. Exactly. And then other people hear about it and they want to get on the train, and you might do a house with them, a house there. I'm not going to do 20 houses with them because he and I are partners, right? Yeah. But am I going to do a house with them? Yeah, I'm going to do a house with them, sure. Smart. It's the best business in the world. It's a pretty good business. Yeah. What I like about it is if I own a hotel or I own an office building, not everybody needs office space. Not everybody's going to stay in a hotel, but everybody needs a house. Mm-hmm. 2 things you can do with a house. You can either buy it or you've got to rent it. And so I'll sell you the house or I'll rent you the house. Yeah. There's nothing else you can do with the house. Sure. And you don't want to live in a trailer park. You don't want to live in an apartment complex. You pay a couple $100 more and you either buy it from me or live it. And that's as easy as it gets. So you were buying a lot of these houses, enhancing them and selling them and renting them with your buddy. But then you've been known to you're kind of one of the leaders in the build to rent communities. Yes. How'd you transition? Talk to me about your first big build to rent deal. Like you were talking about, literally finding the builders, you had the capital, you had the wherewithal, and then you grew this, and you talk to me about these communities. Yeah, I would say, again, once you get used to 10 houses or 20 houses, now you can rinse or repeat and do 30 or 40 or 50. And so what we did is we found a builder, found some land, did a JV, etc. And next thing you know, you have a nice little 40 house, 30 house community like we started off. We're still doing those. We're trying
trying to get a little bigger, but again, we're self-financing. We're not looking for, money from Goldman Sachs or everything. Right. So we're doing stuff ourselves, and it's finding the land, finding the builder, which is tougher and tougher to do, right? Because people are all chasing the land. You've got a lot of build-to-rent operators that have come in the cities where you're operating in, so you constantly have to stay ahead of the game. But yeah, that's how we started. We started with one neighborhood, taking the process of owning 10 or 20 houses, understanding that process, and then just putting a whole neighborhood together.
And why not you get your own GC license and build it yourself and cut out the building?
Yeah, so I got my real estate license. I wouldn't be a good GC. Plus, we've got these in other cities, other states, and you can only do so many things. And what I try to do is I try to do best of breed. If I'm in Augusta or if I'm in Greenville, I try to hook up with someone there or a company there because they know the lay of the land. They know the subs. They know who's going to give them permits, things like that, how to buy the land. I don't know that, and if I come in as an outsider, I'll be taken advantage of because I'm that guy from outside. Whereas if you hire local people, they can take care of things, and they want to do well for you because they want to get more business from you.
So you're reverse engineering. You're basically saying, all right, tell me how much this land's going to cost. How much is it going to cost you because you're the builder, the expert to build this? What's price per square foot? Excellent. How much can I get the rents? You're running the math, and at that point, I mean, the numbers if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make money. That's obvious. So at the end of the day, why? And I know you've sold to the big institutions as well. Why wouldn't you retain the products? Why exit on some of these? Talk to me about your strategy.
We only have so much money, and so what we do, if we create something, a lot of times we're selling half of it. That gives us a profit. We have more equity now to get bigger and buy more deals. And so we're kind of growing organically. You create 50 houses. If you sell 25 of them, you're taking 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards, but you're just recycling your own capital. The other idea is to get capital outside. Well, you give up the ability to kind of control your own destiny. If they say, I want to sell in 3 years, and you say, no, it'd really be sell in 5 years, it'd be better. You're going to sell in 3 years, right? And I don't want to be told when I want to sell, where I want to go, things like that, what I need to charge, because they don't understand my business the way I understand it. So I would say growing small is the way we've done. We have, again, just like replicating a process on the houses, we've kind of replicated the houses or the process on how we're doing the houses. And, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Right.
We would definitely be old dogs. I'll teach you tricks, but I can't change what I'm doing.
Of course. So what's your business strategy today? What markets are you in? So people are out there and they're like, here's Bruce, this guy knows what he's doing. He's got capital. He's ready to build in these communities. What is your core competency? If someone says, hey, I've got a land deal somewhere or a development deal, what are you looking at?
Yeah, so right now I think I'd be looking at a JV with a builder or doing a CO deal where they're building them and we're taking them down in tranches. There's not as much risk. We're putting money down with the builder, but the builder's getting better financing because his neighborhood's 100% sold out from day one, right? So we can get that savings. The builder doesn't have friction, doesn't have commissions. So I think going forward, it's doing something like that. I don't see myself developing a lot. It takes too long. You have to get the land entitled. You have to do the underground utilities. You have to do the roads, infrastructure. And that takes a year and a half. And then you have to build the house. And I don't know what the market's going to be like in 2 years. Plus I have interest carry. I have all these different things. And as you know, if I have a pro forma, it usually doesn't work out to the better. You usually go over budget. And the problem is, if I go over budget, I can probably pass that along when I sell it to the consumer, right? Wood goes up for all builders in the town. When I go over on a budget, my tenants won't pay more in rent. So that just squeezes my cap rates. And I mean, it can take me from being profitable to breaking even or even being unprofitable. And you don't want to build something or build a number of things and lose money because that has a tendency of banging you out of the business or kind of making you shy, or the bank saying, listen, you don't have a success record anymore. We can't sell you, we can't loan you the money.
Bruce had to take a break. He's feeling stiff. We're back. All right. So you do the build-to-rent communities. Most of the time, you'll sell part of them, financing, your rolling domino effect. But this is what's interesting. I mean, and before we get into going from investor and then getting to the landlord stories, what's you're a keynote speaker all the times. You're always on CNN. You're on all these different Wall Street journals. When you talk to these crowds, give us a quick little few-minute overview of what are your points of discussion? Deliver to us what you're giving on the stages
It's usually
today.
having to do with the housing industry, not insurance, but what's going on, the cost of houses, mortgages, where do I see things, the rental business, why it's strong, the home building business. It's just usually around housing, but it also encompasses interest rates, trends, things like that. But it's always some portion of housing. Talk about multifamily. Talk about single family.
So let me ask some questions. We got some multifamily people in here, a lot of single family people, a lot of wholesalers, a lot of investors, a lot of hard money lenders across the board. What are you looking at for as we're approaching? We're in December right now. Today we're December 5th. Sitting on the couch, you can earmark this.
Right.
Predictions for 2025. What's going to happen with home prices nationwide? You're worried about Trump taxation. Where are you seeing the rental market?
Sure.
What are your thoughts?
Interest rates are not going down.
Okay.
So if you've been sitting on the sidelines saying, hey, I'm going to invest when rates are 5%, or hey, I'm going to buy a house when rates are 5%, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
And even if it does happen, let's say rates go from 7 down to 5. That's fantastic. But what happens if the house has gone up 20 or 30,000 in value, and the house isn't going down in value? We don't have enough houses out there, and because there won't be as many buying them because of interest rates, the people that are buying them are going to pay more. So your interest rate may go down, your payment may stay the same. Now insurance is going up, it's not going down. Taxes are going up, it's not going down. The HOA is probably going up because it's based on, some taxes and things like that. And so I would say it's not going to go down. It's not going to go up. It's going to stay relatively flat. And that's for investors, small investors, large investors, but it's also for people out there. So it's fantastic for you if you already own the rentals, right? But it's going to be tough to really scale your business in the next year because rents are relatively flat and what you're getting is relatively flat, but you've got to pay more for the asset. You can't pass that on to the tenant. So you're going to get squeezed. If you get squeezed, your margins are going to come down. So we're not going to see a lot of growth. We're going to see some stress, and I think you're going to see some foreclosures in the future, which might be a reason why you can keep some dry powder and know there might be opportunities. But that's more for a cash buyer, maybe someone paying 50% down. Because when a bank wants to sell something, they're going to look at your offer, other people's offers. And if you're trying to do 95% financing and get in, remember, they're taking the house back from a guy that did something. The last thing they want to do is sell a house to someone that maybe isn't creditworthy, that might not close as well. So I don't see a lot of good. I don't see a lot of bad. I think it's kind of going to be the same, which is bad, right? We've all been waiting for rates to come down, and they really haven't.
So why do you think there would be pressure for foreclosures? Why are people going to default?
I think a lot of people have done short-term loans, 18-month bridge loans, 12-month bridge loans. And the idea was, hey, we'll do it now, we'll acquire it, we'll fix it up, let's stabilize it. And next year, 18 months from now, we'll refinance it.
Got it.
Because rates will be lower. Well, the problem is rates aren't lower.
Sure.
And your 18-month bridge
you're
loan
talking specific, the niche for the investors that utilized an 18-month, 24-month construction loan at a high rate of interest, thinking, all right, we're going to refi out of this. They're going to hold the asset. They have equity. And all of a sudden, they're not able to.
Yeah, it could be a developer. It could be a home builder, investors. If you can't raise rent substantially and taxes and insurance are going up, and your interest rate's high, there's going to be a higher degree of defaults, workouts, delinquencies, and we also have a little higher percentage of vacancies and a higher percentage of evictions. People aren't making the money they used to, or a basket of groceries, is costing more than it used to.
For sure.
So they've got to buy food or they've got to pay you.
Yeah.
So we have a lot more delinquencies now.
Yeah, makes sense. You heard it from the expert here. Wall Street Journal to your television, to your car, to your YouTube. Here he is, the man. So take note and be prepared for 2025.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, now let's get into the good stuff. You've had a phrase, and people, what do they call you? It's Bruce's money.
Bruce's money, Mr. Bruce.
Mr. Bruce.
You got to pay Mr. Bruce, pay the man.
Right. So Bruce is
Bruce.
lives in the southeast, right?
Yep.
And I see you coming out of your Porsche with the gun and the whole thing, gunslinging. You come off as this laid-back guy, but at the end of the day, you have about a zero tolerance for BS as the landlord. 0.0% leniency.
Not 0.1.
You're right.
It's 0.0%
leniency with tenants.
Yes.
Talk to me about it. I mean, we can go on for hours upon hours, and I had the blessing of having you at my house with your beautiful wife, Melanie. Shout out to her. And you were starting to tell me stories that said, hey, man, you're coming on the podcast. I don't want to see a fresh. Save some. Give me some amazing stories for landlords of how you dealt with situations and the craziest stuff. Because I mean, I've seen it all. I thought I've seen it all. And then you tell me stories and I can empathize and we can go back and forth. Talk to the viewers. I mean, you could write a book. I'm telling you, this is a whole script.
When I'm out of the
Give me
business,
some stories.
Okay. My first story ever. My first triplex ever. I had owned houses, knew good people. Now I'm more in the inner city. I'm buying duplexes or triplexes.
And where? Where is this located?
I mean, Nashville, Murfreesboro, south of Nashville. Wherever it's a little dicey, wherever it's a transition. We call that a transitional area. And it's not quite there yet. So I buy a triplex. The first two people pay me money. The next lady, no dinero, no this, no that. And I speak, muy poquito así español, right? And so she goes, I have no money. And I say, well, INS. She looks at me, she goes into a bra and she pulls out 5 sticky $500 bills. I'm like, you know what, count them out, whatever. I get the 500, it smells, it's sweaty, put that in my truck. And I told her, no dinero, no casa. Mi casa and su casa, whatever. And she goes, no problemo, etc. Never had a problem with her after that. But had I been a bleeding heart, okay, no problem. Give me a call next week. You're preconditioning yourself. And luckily I did that early on. I call it the hustle, right? And if you let them go the first time, the hustle's going to work. Then they tell the next door neighbor, hey,
you give
just
them
tell
an
them
inch,
this.
they take a
100%.
foot.
So that was the first story. Another story, was probably a year or two later. I had a dancer in one of my units, lower income unit, and she didn't pay me. And I had a gate, and the gate got locked. It was hard for her to go out and dance. She'd call me, hey, whatever. And I said, listen, you owe me $500. I said, you got to pay me. She goes, well, what?
You had a what? A gate or a date?
Yeah, a gate.
You had a gate in the complex?
It had a lock on it. It's a small building. She can't get out and whatever. And I said, you got to pay me. I don't have the money. And she goes, well, what do you suggest? Whatever. I said, I have an idea. You go up to Bowling Green. It's about an hour from here. And you dance your little ass off. I mean, you dance like you've never danced before. You get me $500, come back from Bowling Green. I need it, or else you're not staying in my place. So she comes back the next day, calls me, hey, I got good news. Every single bill was a 1, right? And they were ticky. They smelled like beer, whatever. I made her put the heads all the same way. Counted it out one at a time. You're like going like this, because they're all crumpled up. People throwing it at her or whatnot. So we count out twice, $497. $497. And I said, girl, you need $3 more. She shakes it out of her ashtray. Now I've got cigarettes, I've got crap all over, quarters, dimes, nickels. She scrubs it together, and now I have $500. And I don't remember her name. I wish I did. And I said, listen, I got good news and bad news. Good news is you're staying in your crib. You've paid me. The bad news is there's a $50 late fee, okay? So you go out there, you dance a little more, you pay me on time. And that actually worked out. She stayed for a while. In that building, I'm going to tell you about Billy the Racist Cowboy. It was an African-American area, lower income minority area, wasn't the safest area. Somehow we got a racist cowboy, white guy, that would wear Confederate flag shirts, and he had the big chain on the long leather wallet, and he had a cowboy hat. And he'd walk through the neighborhood like this, and he was racist. He wanted me to kick every single person out of the building because they bothered Billy. Well, Billy died with his boots on. One night we came to see Billy, probably to collect money, and Billy died with his boots on. He had his hat, he had his boots, he had a Bud Light in one hand, and it was all seized up, and the remote control in the other hand, and he was just all seized up. And he was watching TV. But Billy died, happy with the beer in his hand, remote control, being racist, living in a neighborhood. So we called him Billy the racist cowboy. And then I had Glenn.
Was that random, the death, or were you
I just think Billy's time was up. I think Billy probably had a hard life and didn't live his normal life expectancy. But I think Billy went out on Billy's terms.
Got it.
We went out on Billy's terms. I had you had to nickname people because it would drive you crazy. So we had Glenn, and Glenn had no teeth. And he was always want to make me a business deal. Hey, I have a business proposition for you. I have a business. I'm like, where'd you go to business school? Well, you know, blah, blah, blah. Right. And he always had a hustle. This building, they had a lot of hustles in this building. And that was one, I think the greatest one in the world was a guy named Larry. And I owned an apartment complex. One building was U-shaped with a gate. The other one was just a long building. There was a parking lot in the middle. So one was safer to live in the other, but beautiful little courtyard. People could go out there. Well, my boy Larry liked Marvin Gaye, and he liked drinking beer out of a little bag, you know. And he would have a couple of those a day. But on a nice sunny day, beautiful afternoon, he would just crank Marvin Gaye up just as loud as you could. And Larry would paint his, put eyeshadow on, blue eyeshadow, and he would just kick back. And Zach, he would relieve himself. He would just sit there and go like this and smile and listen to Marvin Gaye. And I'd say, hey,
in the middle of the complex.
Middle of the day, who knows who's walking around, and he would just relieve himself. And I'd say, Larry, you got to put that thing back in your pants.
Right.
Get that. And he'd say, hey, you know, MF, you know, whatever, redneck, I can sit here and stroke it all I want. Wow. I'm on Section 8. You're a racist. And I said, Larry, I'm not a racist. I said, but you're sitting there stroking your Johnson. You got people around. You're listening to Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
I said, you can't do it. You just can't, you know, do that. And Larry, it was a rumor. It was a rumor that he got a rooster thrown in his apartment in the middle of the night. And the rumor was the rooster went all crazy and whatever. And the last time I saw Larry, it was not in my courtyard with Marvin Gaye. He was walking down the road with everything he owned. I think it was in one, maybe it was two grocery carts. And he just flipped me off and told me I was a racist. But we never had anybody pleasuring themselves in our courtyard after that.
I'm pretty sure.
Same complex. We had Robert, and Robert was a little person. I think he was 3'11" or 4 feet tall, and he would sleep in our laundry room. He'd pee over here, and people would tell me, "Hey, Robert, whatever," and he'd say, "How do you know it was me? How do you know it was me?" And I said, "Well, Robert, they said it was a 4 foot tall black midget." I said, "And there aren't any 4 foot tall black midgets around here anymore, so I'm not picking on you.
Right.
It's just." I know it's you, right?
Yeah.
And they have identified you.
Right.
And so he'd say, well, you're always picking on. And he was very smart. I mean, he had kind of a legal mind. Yeah. He'd always tell me how the world works. The funniest thing is, about a few blocks around, it was called Belmont Village, a few blocks around was this beautiful university called Belmont University. At freshman orientation, they would flash his picture on the screen and say, if this guy panhandles from you, if this guy says anything, just run. Because he's just, so the guy got such notoriety in the neighborhood that in the university, they flashed his picture on there and said, run from this guy. So he didn't think I was a good guy either. Last time he saw me or I saw him, I honked and he started waving. He was excited. Then he saw it was me and he just kept jumping up and down, flipping me off, going, you racist, you racist. And again, I'm not a racist. It's just he thought he lived there. But he did.
Right.
And he lived in different places. Hey, he wasn't friends with Larry, didn't do anything crazy, but he was always saying to me, why are you picking me out? How do you know it was me? And I tried to explain to him that he stuck out a little bit. Yeah. But anyway, that was just one complex. So
sounds like a very diverse complex.
Yeah, it was two. It's where Billy lived was on one side, and where Robert and Larry, the gentleman that pleasured himself, they lived on the other side of town. So
there was a story you mentioned to me the other day, something about somebody had a lock issue. What was that all about?
Yeah, so a lot of apartment complexes you buy, or duplexes and triplexes, might have a back door and a front door.
Okay.
So if you're knocking on the front door for money, they might be running out the back door.
Sure.
And so what I would do is I'd usually get a pretty big guy who's a worker, and he'd keep the back door shut. So the guy would just bolt and come, and all of a sudden, boom, you know, because his back door doesn't open. Well, he's a little shell-shocked, like a bird maybe getting hit on something, flapping around. Well, then he'd say, Mr. Bruce is waiting for you at the front door.
Right.
I don't want to talk to Mr. Bruce. He said, well, you don't want to talk to me either. And so he'd kind of come out and apologize and whatnot. But a lot of times when you don't have a back door, you know, the front door is very important. You have to get into it. Of course. And we would never take off locks. You know, that makes a mess. It's against the rules, whatever. But sometimes the locks wouldn't work, right?
Okay.
Something would happen. Maybe the door knob needed more oil, or stuff got in the keyhole or whatnot, or someone was trying to help them out and they broke the key in the keyhole. And that usually happened to people that hadn't paid me. And a lot of times it would happen about 4:30 or 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. And I always had problems. They always wanted me to fix things.
Right.
And I told them I didn't have any money. I was short on money, but if they could pay me, we'd be able to. But for whatever reason, those darn keys would snap off.
Wow.
Trying to open up the door and snap off, no back door. It was their only way to get in. So,
wow.
And I felt bad for the people. It's just, you can only do so much for someone, and when they take advantage of you, you just can't service their units. Right. As much as you can. You're already paying their water bill. You're paying for the dumpster. You're paying for a lot of these other things. All they have to pay is the rent. Right. And a lot of them will do other things with the money. Right. And then you're the last guy to get paid. And it doesn't work that way.
Understood.
You end up being Robert sleeping in my laundry room.
There you go. You don't want to be Robert.
No, or Larry, or Larry's neighbors. Larry was fine with Larry. It's his neighbors that probably had a little problem with them.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
0.0 tolerance. Mr. Bruce needs his money.
I have tolerance for people that communicate with you, that maybe pay you half the rent. They have some remorse. But the minute you run or tell me to screw myself, or you're never getting a dollar out of me, they go right at the top, right? Sure. But again, that goes back to they're the 10 or 20% of the people. Exactly. And then I can't spend enough time for the 90% of the people that are profitable. So you try to get them out of your lives. You try to not get them in your place by tripping them up, asking them a lot of questions, etc. But those people that go south or they don't pay you, they go on top of the list. And I've had people say, hey, I'm not going to pay you, screw yourself. I know my rights. Well, again, no remorse. The guy's just going to do that. Not the type of guy. And that's the guy I'm going to try to get out. And that's the guy I'm going to spend time and money getting out. If you try to pay me, if you keep up with me, you communicate, something happened to your engine, your boyfriend didn't pay child support, I want to try to work with those people. I will work with them the best I can. But once someone gets 1 month behind and they get 2 months behind, they're not resurrecting things. And so we'll kick them out. If they leave the place clean, probably won't sue them or whatever. But if you damage my unit and you don't pay me, you're going to the top of the list, and we're probably going to have to not only evict you, but sue you for the past rent and the late fees and things.
Have you ever had any violent encounters with any of your tenants, or no?
I have. I've had a few knives pulled on me. I've had to draw my gun, and I had to shoot one bullet one time. Luckily, it didn't hit the guy. I'm trying to think. It was two knives.
He was coming at you?
He was coming at me, and I hadn't chambered the bullet. Okay. Wow. So I went to pull it. He was coming right at me. Luckily, there wasn't a bullet in the chamber. And then he kind of got on the side of me, and that's when I fired the bullet. Again, probably intentionally missed, or God came over me and said miss. But I would have.
Did he run from that?
Yeah, and I'll tell you a mistake that I made, and I would tell your listeners or people watching not to do, is I bought a house with a garage that was turned in and converted to a living room. So people know if you're home or if you're not home, because there's no garage, useful garage. So they either see cars in the driveway or they don't. So people know when you're home. Well, that was a young guy breaking in, sleeping in, wasn't doing anything, but I was told that he was there. But 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning, he's in the house. And you don't expect violence. You don't expect to draw your gun at 8 o'clock in the morning. But that I still remember the address. The police let me go. I had a carry permit. I wanted to give a report, and they're like, hey, this happens all the time, go. And so I was kind of surprised. That was very nonchalant. I think they caught the kid. Kid was probably pretty shaken up.
Well, why did you have to shoot him?
I didn't shoot him. I discharged my gun.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and a knife. I've got a scar across my hand from a guy pulling a knife on me. But I had two guys, actually. I had one guy going up to Billy the Racist Cowboys unit, which is number 8, and a guy got me on the stairs, and there was no way out. Yeah. And he pulled a knife on me, and he said, hey, this is what I'm going to do to you. And he started, and I said, listen, I'm going to get one punch in. I'm going to get one in. Yeah. I'm going to kick you down the stairs, whatever. But you got me. Okay, you got me. But let me tell you, before you start swinging that knife or whatever, I said, I'm from 8 Mile Road. I said, actually, I'm from 7 Mile Road. It's 1 mile worse an 8 Mile road. And he looks up at me, he goes, "Are you from Detroit?" I said, "I'm from Detroit." He goes, "This has been a big misunderstanding."
Wow.
Put the guy,
real.
put the knife away and walked away.
No way.
The guy literally said, "Are you serious?" And I said, "Brother, I'm from 7 Mile in Livernois. You know nothing about that, but it's deeper into this hood than 8 Mile. And I'm gonna get, I'm gonna get 1 or 2 on you before you get the knife on."
How did you stay so calm? Guys threatened. He was one of your tenants and clearly didn't like
I'd never
you.
seen the dude before.
And he just said
he was
threatening
going
your
up
life.
to see Billy the Racist Cowboy or whoever lived there. And he was a black dude. He had me. Now, I'll tell you the other time.
Did you have a gun on you?
No.
Oh, but you were just calm and collected.
Yeah, and that's what you need to be. The minute you show that they're scared or whatever, that's not good.
But you're pretty, for the audience, what are you, 6 something? How big are you?
I'm 250. I'm 6'2".
You're 6'2", 250.
Yeah.
Big boy.
But again, that doesn't do a whole lot when a guy's got a gun to your head.
No,
right?
that's true.
You could be a football player or a tiny guy.
See, no one talks about this. People think this is just OPM and finance and bankers.
Yes.
These skills, when you're in the wild, in the hood, they're important. I've been surrounded before.
They teach you how to use OPM. They teach you how to use other people's money, how to get financing.
Yeah.
I want to write a book, and I want it to be called "What They Didn't Teach You About XYZ."
I love
and
it.
it can be the last chapter or 2. But all these people teach you about this. But if you can't collect rent money on Friday night and you can't make your mortgage payment, it doesn't make a difference what you learned. Okay?
For sure.
You got to collect the rent. And that goes back to tenant selection. I don't know how Billy the Racist Cowboy rented a unit, but I probably wouldn't have rented one to him if I saw him.
You assumed him when you acquired that complex, obviously.
It's just,
or you rented to him.
No, we rented to him. Now, Donnie down in unit number 3 or 4, I think Donnie had been there 20 years. I inherited Donnie. Donnie was the sweetest guy in the world, like Marvin Gaye or whatever. Donnie was a good human being, was in that unit for about 20 years. I inherited him. When I sold the business, the next guy inherited him. Donnie, if he's alive, is probably still there.
Wow.
But yeah, we did that. I'm trying to think of anything. I was dead to rights in my large apartment complex in the office, and there's only one way in and one way out. There's a door. A guy comes in, "I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to do that to you, you're a MF, whatever." And I said, "Okay, you got a knife, you're a big guy, you're going to do all this to me." I said, "Before you make me your bitch, before you take me outside and prove a point, whatever, I just want to say one thing." And I've never had a sport coat on in my life at the complex, right? Yeah. And I just went like this. And he saw a gun on my hip. He goes, "This has been all one big misunderstanding."
Yeah.
He goes, "Totally one misunderstanding." And he starts like boxing, like with Fred Sanford, right? Like boxing to God. And he's backing up, he's backing up, he's backing up. He gets out the door, then he starts yelling at me, but he's still backing up.
Right.
But had I not went like this, I would have gotten probably carved up. Again, I would have had one chance at him.
Wow.
Maybe I would have thrown a fax machine or something, but this guy was ready to go. And I had one other story with a guy named Pee Wee. And Pee Wee got a knife on me. We had a gate. I couldn't get out of the gate. My truck's over here. I don't have anything on me. And Pee Wee's jacked up on something. He is a meat cleaver. This is not just a switchblade. And he's doing this, and he's jacked up. I get a chair off of someone's porch, and I'm banging him like a lion tamer. Literally, he's a lion, and I'm just banging him and banging. He finally wiped himself out, sat down, huffing and puffing. There's the meat cleaver. I'm huffing and puffing. Call the cops. They arrest him. He's on drugs. And we had a little rule there. It was called Bruce's eviction or Bruce's whatever. We got his stuff out. He's a drug dealer, whatever. I don't feel compelled probably to go through the legal system. But what we did is we just took off his front door, right? It was called Bruce's open door policy. Okay. And people came in and stole some of his stuff, whatnot. Well, this guy was inventive. He didn't have a door anymore. So he went and got a shower curtain. Wow. And just like a meat locker or whatever, he sat there and cut strips and then nailed it up. So when he came home, the air conditioner would be on, and he would just kind of crawl through that series of plastic things coming down, and he went in and out. We finally got rid of him, and his nickname was Pee Wee. And Pee Wee had a brother. okay? And Pee Wee's brother was about as big of a loser as Pee Wee. And I don't remember his name, but he didn't live there. But he would come visit Pee Wee. And that's the time you got problems, because you haven't run a credit on him. You don't know if he's a criminal. Yeah. And so he came to me. He said, Pee Wee this, Pee Wee this. He said, I tell you, motherfucker, if I come on your property again, why don't you try to have me arrested, whatever. And all of a sudden, a cop car's going down the street. And I know the cop. Yeah. And I go, hey, like this. And he's just going, he stops, he goes, what's up? I said, this guy said the next time he's on my property to have him arrested. Yeah. He checks him out, he's got a warrant, he arrests him. And he's like, no, motherfucker, I meant the next time I was on your property. And I'm like, I thought it was this time. He's like, no, next time. I said, man, you got to be more specific next time, whatever. Wow. And then I'm like, wouldn't Grandma and Grandpa be so proud of you? You and your brother Pee Wee are going to be in jail during the holidays, and you can just spend time together, do your 1129, which is 11 months and 29 days, and just have your Thanksgiving dinner, your Christmas dinner, and wouldn't Grandma and Grandpa be proud of you?
Man, you had more problems and
Well, so that's why I want to spend time in build-to-rent, the higher-end houses, working with the funds. Now, it's very profitable working on the lower end, right? Yeah. Whether it's mobile homes, crappy apartments in the city, you can buy the buildings so cheap, but then you have to worry about evictions, collections, and so you're really working hard.
You're getting you're earning. You're getting compensated for the risk. Yeah, you are technically exposing your life. Correct. Like, my rule of thumb is this, and this is important. Sure, you can always get a higher cap rate. Go buy in the hood, and you should get a 15 or 20 cap. You want to know why? Because when you go out and collect that rent, there's a chance you may not be coming home. It's a risk premium, risk-reward. It's risk-reward. Yep. So if you're willing to risk your life for that extra few percent, go for it. But it's going to be a day where it's a zero-sum game.
And then I get a handyman, right? And I get a handyman that can talk the language or whatever, play good cop, bad cop, except, with them, and let them collect the money. Maybe they would collect the late fee. I'd say, you keep the late fee. I just need the money. There you go. And I had a guy at that complex. It's a great story. And he was a snitch. I said, listen, I'll give you like $25 or $50 off your rent, or just cash. I said, but I need eyes and ears around here. Right. And I, like you're my eyes and ears. So I don't know what his name was, okay? Yeah. He would call me up. He's like, yo, you got something going down. It's Pee Wee, right? And sure enough, we'd bust Pee Wee. Not a back door, whatever. Call me up, yo, yeah, you got something going down. I swear to God, it would always be, yo, you got something going down now. And so I'd call my friend that was the cop. We'd bust him. And I'd get a receipt. He'd make me up a little receipt. So funny. He'd put the number 4 information, and he'd spell information wrong, put a couple lines down and put $25. And that was my receipt. So I paid him the $25, but he always gave me a receipt for information.
Number 4, information. Unbelievable.
Cool guy. I wish I remember.
So I'm assuming you don't have any of those properties anymore. You got rid of
we sold them. Right? I sold them off to small investors. Yeah. I can tell you that one summer we did those duplexes and triplexes. I sold 7 of them to 7 different Californians. Mm-hmm. They came to town, 0% down, 100% countrywide financing. Wow. Every single one of them lost the buildings.
Oh, wow.
A year later.
Wow.
They didn't know how to collect the rent. They thought I would give them the address, whatever. They just thought people would send it to them in the mail and they'd never need service. Yeah. And they didn't know how to be a landlord. Right. They were out of state, out of touch. Their tenants knew it. And they were 100% leased. When I sold it to them, vacant, and lost the properties a year later. So they didn't learn how to be a landlord. They might have learned how to buy places 0 money down. Right. And how to look for places and what to look for, but they didn't know that collecting money is kind of the whole game.
It is
picking your tenant, collecting money, and keeping the place in good shape. Yeah. If you have a place in good shape, you fix the toilet in an hour or a day, happy people will pay you rent. Yeah. When they don't have air conditioning for 5 days in July, when they don't have this, people that are unhappy have a tendency of not paying rent. Of course. Or not paying rent on time.
For sure.
Right, or trashing your place.
Right. Great skill. So, and this is funny, because this point I'm gonna take this life lessons from Bruce Needs His Money for the intro. Guys, today on Investorlift, right, you're gonna not learn about OPM and how to do build-to-rent communities. You're gonna learn about how to protect yourself in very volatile situations with guns at your throat, and how to diffuse situations from the man, the myth, Bruce McNeilage needs his money today, and he's going to protect himself at all costs. This guy knows exactly what he's doing. So today we're taking it down to the streets from 7 Mile of Detroit, right? Both Detroit boys,
Absolutely.
to all the way to the streets and you know, low-income housing to now evolving into built-to-rent communities. Bruce has seen it all from the bottom to the top.
I know the hustle.
He knows the hustle.
I know the hustle.
And this game is all about the hustle, right?
The hustle.
So it's like, you know, we get the hustle from. Where did you learn to become an entrepreneur, by the way?
My dad owned some apartment complexes in areas that were transitional.
Yep.
I never saw him collect the money, but I knew he had apartment complexes in areas that were not that nice.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just, it wasn't learned from me. Maybe it was just, you know, in the DNA or whatnot. I don't know if he knew the hustle. He was a nicer guy and probably believed some of the stories or didn't, you know, collect all the money.
Yeah.
But I can't let your financial problems become my financial problems.
Right.
Because if I pay for a roof over your head, I'm going to lose the roof over my head. Right. And I just can't let that happen.
Yeah. I love it. So, legacy, what, you know, you've got multiple, how many kids do you have? 3?
3.
Exactly. You got, you know, you're on your deathbed and God willing 60, 70 years and kids ask you, Dad.
67 or 70. Not years,
No,
but
60 to
67
70.
or 70.
No. Years from now, the
yeah.
kids are asking for life advice from Dad, and you have a few minutes. What do you want your legacy? What advice you want to give to them?
I think for me is my legacy is don't do what I do. But if you do it right. Start small, buy quality, and the return on your money is not as important as the return of your money. Right? If it costs me $1,000 a month to pay that mortgage, it's important for me to get the 1,000. Right? It's not as important for me to get the 500. I've got to get the 1,000 first, and then the 5. So it's the return of your money, then the return on your money. I think a lot of people try to do it the other way around, and that would be maybe some of my advice. My advice would probably be buy quality properties in the city you live in. Go deep and wide in that city. You have no business going out to other cities.
Agreed.
Until you go deep and wide. And you maybe never go out those cities. If you get enough product, you get a reputation, you know who all the vendors are, you treat people right, deals are coming to you, you know the banks, title companies, insurance folks. That would probably be my advice. My advice also might be do better in school and don't ever do this. But when you look at what we can make versus education and hustle, my education is on Main Street. My education is on 7 Mile Road. Now, I have a college degree, but that's where I learned the hustle. Nobody teaches you in college how to buy a duplex or how to get money or how to flip something. You learn that by doing it. Also, I would want to learn from other people's mistakes. The cost of tuition for me to have learned from my mistakes was much higher than if I worked for you for a year, saw mistakes that happened to you, then I could go out with my eyes wide open and learn from your mistakes.
Exactly.
That's not paying tuition.
Sure.
I'm learning from you paying tuition.
Right.
So I think my legacy is teaching my kids values, teaching them how to manage money, teaching them how to respect money, and whether they have it in real estate, stock market, gold, you know, the bank, whatnot, it's to respect money or you won't have it. And then if you respect money, take it and do something with it. Don't spend it. Have a lifestyle that's always under your means. Buy a cheaper house, drive a car that isn't as fancy as your friends. And let me say one thing, and this is something people kind of laugh at. I'll ask you, what's the worst day of your life? I don't know. I'll say the worst day of your life is when you've been keeping up with the Joneses and the Joneses just declared bankruptcy.
Right. Exactly.
That's the worst day of your life. If I'm spending money on a car or jewelry or whatnot, I can take money and go buy a duplex. You know, you've got a flashy car, you've got a Rolex, you've got whatever you need. I'm going to use that 10 or 20 grand to go buy a duplex. And that duplex is going to give me that $1,000. I can go buy that car now. I can buy half that car now.
Sure.
But you can't spend money, because if you spend money, you're not making money on that. If you take that money, vacations. When I was younger, I didn't take vacations. If I did, there was a 3-day vacation. All my friends were going here, were going there, lived in nicer houses. Well, those people now say, I wish I was like you. Well, they didn't wish they were like me in the 20s and 30s. They're probably making fun of me. But now, you know, those people, they're not laughing anymore because I was frugal with my money. So I think I would tell my kids, I would tell any investors out there, be frugal with your money, live under your means, and that money will, you will not outlast that money. That money will already be there. Then as far as legacy, you can support churches, charity, leave money to your spouse, to your kids, and set them up so they'll have a better chance to be successful and not have to spend the time cutting their teeth in the hood knowing Larry and knowing Billy the Raceless Cowboy. I don't want my kids to have to deal with that. That's what I did. I want them to live a better life and have it a little easier.
Mic drop. I think that sums it all up. Any other final parting words?
No, that's really it, man. That's where surround yourself by good people, learn by their mistakes, but also let them learn by your mistakes. Share. You know, be a mentor, right? If I didn't have a mentor, right? So I had to go cut my teeth myself. Now, I might have talked to people and whatnot, and now I'm a mentor. People have found me, I've found them. That's also my legacy, is to teach others what I know so they don't go out and fail. And if they're successful, I've done something good.
There you go.
I've done something good.
So you're not all about just Bruce needs his money. You're about Bruce sharing his money and knowledge.
But I got to get the money first. And not spend it. Not spend it.
Be frugal, be a good person. Good things come to, you know, those who deliver.
Pick good tenants and collect the money.
There you go. From a man who was a financial advisor, exiting the finance business, going into the real estate business, 1 home to 57 homes to communities. You've done it all in also a pretty short period of time. When did you actually start in the real estate?
I didn't start until I was 38.
There you go.
I don't know if I owned a house I was living in. It might have been rented.
Unbelievable.
I started when I was 38. I'm 58 now. Now, don't get me wrong. If I started at 20, you probably don't get to 40 and be that successful. I already had the business acumen, whatever. But you can start at 50, you can start at 40, you can learn the business. But yeah, I was 38 years old.
There you go.
Had some extra money, knew a little bit about the world, knew about the world, had been in the world, knew nothing about the world I was going into.
Wonderful.
Total neophyte.
For people that want to get in touch with you, I don't think you have an Insta, but we're going to create an Insta for you.
I'm on Twitter.
So he's on Twitter. But for people to communicate with you, if you've got deals for land development, built-to-rent communities, multifamily apartments in the markets you're in, how do people get in touch with you?
I would just say it's Bruce at Kinlochpartners.net. It's Bruce at KINLOCH partners.net. Certainly can do that. You can look me up on my website, kinlochpartners.net. You got my emails, phone numbers, articles I've been in. TV,
we'll tag them on here.
TV news, articles I've been in. And also, you can read some stories I've written, articles, interviews, and I think you would be a lot smarter and wiser if you read some stuff I've done, because the stuff I've done was from real world experiences. It wasn't from a book I read. It was from real world experiences. And I'd rather get my degree on Main Street and learn and hustle, maybe learn it from you or I, guys that have done it, than learn it from maybe someone that's read a book that has a PhD, but they've never gone out in the real world and collected rent or, you know, flipped a house or, you know, dealt with people, dealt with the Larrys and the Billies.
We've dealt with our fair share of calm characters for sure. So, guys, Bruce, thank you so much for being here today and flying in. This has been in the books for a long time. We're lucky to have you, a wealth of knowledge and experience.
I appreciate
those shoes have barely any tread left because the guy's been hitting the streets for a long time. So, guys, thank you so much for watching another amazing episode of Investorlift podcast, 11 out of 10 podcast. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, reach out to Bruce. He will be checking this in tag. And let us know who else you'd like to see on the show. Questions for future stuff. We love you. We appreciate it. 1 home at a time. Hit the streets. Be ready for the fight. And don't give up. It's been an honor to have you here. Thank you, guys.